What do you think's about 2012? And Danny laughed his ass off, and he says, there's no time. That doesn't mean anything. All it means is that consciousness is expanding and awareness is increasing. The date 2012, as I understand it, and I'm not an expert on this, is the Mayan calendar ends on that date. And my answer to that is, well, it had to end sometime. When you write a book, you have to know where to end it. And who knows why it ended on that date. Maybe the Mayans were invaded by an enemy and the villages were burned and everybody died and nobody was left to continue the calendar. I don't think it means anything. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, that sounds like a reasonable opinion, outlook. There's so many of them out there. There's so many people that get so caught up in it. I for one, decided when it all started getting really popular, because it did. It's like 2012, and at first I bought into it, and then I didn't, and I thought, I wrote a little article about it. It made it really far. Originally I wrote it called 11/11, and 2012 happened to be part of that because so many people kept seeing 11/11, and it was for a year. All my friends were like, oh gosh, Renee, her 11/11, and then all of a sudden people started seeing it, and they kind of understood. So anyways, it ended. 2012 happened to, make its way in there because, you add it all up and it's actually 11/11. So there's a lot. I don't believe that, I don't believe that everything's going to come crumbling down and it's going to be the end of everything. And there's a part of me that believes that, because we're human, we're on a timeline, then, maybe it's the end of a shift or an era, an energy that we're going to shift into a whole another energy, which I'm really counting on. I'm really hoping we do. And we are. We're already moving into that. So.
Well, that's happening all the time. That never stops. I mean, people could have said that 1915 was the shift in an era of energy. Every minute is a shift. And if you live in a place of timelessness, you realize that there's no line of demarcation because there's no line. For there to be a line, something would have to be linear. There would have to be a beginning and ending point of something, and there just isn't. We humans are this emanation from Spirit, from God, from the light, from the thought form that created the universe. That's what we are. We're not these bodies, sitting in these houses talking on the phone right now. And when we realize what we really are, all these time considerations don't mean anything. And this whole thing about 2012, the poles are going to shift and end of the world, you know what that is? That's a bunch of Christian biblical crap, and I don't mind saying that publicly because that just echoes the kind of stuff that's in Revelation in the New Testament, that God is watching over us, and, if we do something wrong, disaster's going to happen. Well, disaster happens anyway. We have earthquakes in Haiti. We have all this disaster. It has nothing to do with judgment. Disaster has to do with a collective desire for growth. And so this idea that a certain date's going to come and the world's going to fall apart, and even if the world does fall apart, if a meteor hit Earth right now, would you care? I wouldn't. It means it would mean nothing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, 5 seconds from now, the Earth is gone. Well, this isn't all there is for us.
Well, yeah, it has a lot to do with putting yourself in, I believe in living in the now. I think a lot of people don't realize they're not living in the now. They're living in the past, and they're living in the future, but a lot of them don't live in the now. And so if you're worrying about something that could happen, that might happen in a couple of years or even next week, your future self, it's like you need to call that energy back and live now and be the powerful being you came here to be,
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. So
are people actually worried about 2012?
There's a lot of people because, there's a lot of people that, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to develop the show, because to get information out to the masses, the best way I can do, just me, I'm not coast to coast or I'm not even close to that, but, even if I touched 2 people or 1 person that didn't have something for them to think about, like living in the past and living in the future, or just in the now, or just one thing, that made them stop and think a minute, so that for themselves, that's rewarding to me. So yeah, there's a lot of people out there, people that I know, people that I frequent, people that are friends from high school, people, my family. There's just a lot of people that, and there's obviously the ones that reach out and want to know more like me. I'm like a sponge, once I got my eyes opened up, my awareness opened, I was like, it changed my whole world. It changed everything, but for the best for me, and not everybody's geared that way. But so yeah, I think there's a lot.
Once you open up your mind to a non-judgmental way of looking at the universe, you can never go back. You will
no,
never
I
go
can't.
Back to
I wouldn't want to. I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't want to, because this view actually makes you more responsible for your condition, because now we can't blame anybody. We can't blame God. We can't blame the devil. We can't do any of that stuff. And this whole 2012 thing is really just a spin-off on Christian theology. There's no real basis for it at all. And in Christian theology, God gets mad at the world periodically and wipes everything out with a flood or or a war or whatever. And, people, just as an example, talking about Buddhist teachings coming to the West, when the Buddhist teachings came to the West in the 50s and 60s, they brought with them a lot of concepts. One of those concepts was karma. Now, every alleged spiritual person thinks they know what karma is, and they think that there's such thing as good karma and bad karma, and it's not true. Good karma and bad karma is just a Christianized version of what karma is. Karma is neutral. Karma is basically just cause and effect. Right now, I just walked across the room and moved a chair. That's karma. It doesn't mean anything. Now the chair is in another place than it was a minute ago. That's all karma is. It gets a little bit deeper than that when you think about, let's talk about Hitler again, because that's always a good topic. If Hitler decides to reincarnate in his next life and balance the energy of what he created in his last life, this is his choice. He could choose to come to Earth as a member of an oppressed minority, or to suffer torture or any of these other things, if he wants to balance the energy. Karma is not punishment. He's not going to be punished because he created bad karma. He has the choice to balance the karma in his next life, to experience the other side of an experience that he created. If he doesn't do it in his next life, he can do it in the one after that, or the one after that, or the one after that. Karma is completely in our hands, not in the hands of some outside force that rules. You're going to have this, you're going to have that. That's the Christian idea, that there's this God, dangling us like puppets on a string. Karma is our choice to work with energy in whatever way we need to. But that's a perfect example of how a very deep spiritual teaching, karma, from Buddhism, came to America and became Christianized. So this idea of 2012, the end of the world and all that, is exactly the same thing. A shift in consciousness does not mean a shift in physical, condition. It doesn't mean that the world's going to explode or earthquakes. There's earthquakes and there's stuff now. And some of these people go, oh, no, there's more earthquakes than ever. No, there's not. There's the same amount of earthquakes that there ever was. The earth is an entity into itself. The earth is doing what it's supposed to do. It always has and it always will for as long as it's here. It has nothing to do with, some outside force, God type of person punishing us.
And that's a very Christian way of looking at it. I mean, not you, but that's how a lot of Christians do it. And it's so funny because, I don't have a lot of nice things to say about religion, but because I was